Hello, folks, and man, Greg's already here. Did you bring the popcorn? What am I up to? Nothing. I just, I woke up. Did I wake up? I took a shower, woke up. I took a shower because I'm going to stay home probably all day. If I was going out or if I was going to work, I'm surely not taking a shower in the morning. It takes me no time to get nasty at work. Of course, I take a shower at night every night, so. Anyhow, what am I up to? Well, we're working on some Moldavians. And we got this guy done. And we got this guy nearly done. We did a little bit too much bullshitting last night, not enough painting, which is fine. We had a core of 5 or 6 people that were really active last night and kept me company. And I had just enough coffee that I went to sleep close to about, so I had to go pick up my daughter, so maybe about 10:30. And then at midnight, I was like wide open and almost came back on, but we didn't do that. But yeah, we got to finish this guy here and then do stuff in the grate, and then we'll go deal with some Poles. Deal with a Polish question. So let's put what's his face away, and let's get in here. Yeah, I had a really good conversations going on yesterday. Mostly not DBA related, which is fine. We're here to have a good time, and well, I'm here to have a good time. I don't know about everybody else. No, it was all good. It was all good. So, all right, we got to find out where the hell we left off. I think we're doing strappy straps. That's where we're at. And it's just after 6 a.m. So, wake up, shower, have breakfast, shave, and there you have it. That's all my big accomplishments for the day. See if I can find where exactly we were, more or less. I think we're about here. Yep. So hopefully this morning we'll have a similar type thing. I'm not going out of town this weekend, so we should have a full morning of painting today. Maybe even other painting throughout the day. And tomorrow morning as well. I really want to get up in the polls. Need to do a little bit more around the horse's face. I had some problems with bandwidth yesterday evening, so I don't know. Maybe there was a big drone strike in the morning. They sent all the drones out first thing in the morning. That's why I couldn't get a good connection. I started work on the mounted elements of the Three Kingdoms of Korea armies. 2 light horses are ready to go tomorrow, just after 10 p.m. on Saturday night. Oh no, I don't want to be at your time. I'd lose a whole weekend. Speaking of which, don't we get screwed pretty soon? Is it this weekend where we have to spring forward? They didn't announce it all over work. They usually are like ridiculous about. I'm going to check that out because I'd like to know if I'm going to lose an hour. Let's see here. This is always the one I dislike. I wish you'd just leave it alone. We're going to do a search for spring forward 2022. When is it? March 13th. Wow, they didn't announce it all over the freaking office. Well, I'm pretty sure my phone will do it automatically. So there's really, unless you live somewhere where you don't have a phone, it's going to be really hard to miss. Good morning, workbench. Yes. You guys in the UK have that spring forward bullshit that we have here? I wish they would just pick one and leave it alone. I don't even care which one, because I don't like the normal time, which I think we're on the normal time now. I don't like it because I don't want darkness in the evening. I want to get home from work and not be able to do all kinds of stuff. But it's okay how it is now. I mean, it's at least reasonable. As it starts getting dark about 7:15 or something like that. So when it gets dark at 5, it's just dumb as hell. So I was just looking it up, and yeah, it's spring forward tomorrow. So we lose an hour, and they didn't announce it all over the office. Usually they're like Nazis about it. Like don't forget to, what is it? Don't forget to turn your clocks back. Like they should care. So everybody just shows up for work an hour early. This is the dangerous one where people could be an hour late. Wish you would just pick one and leave it alone. You never know when it happens. Yeah, it's probably better now. Our daylight savings doesn't finish until the first weekend of April. They just leave it the hell alone. Pick one and I don't care which one it is. Pick one and leave it alone. I bet they don't have daylight savings time in countries that are near the equator. Just brainstorming here. I'm guessing they wouldn't. Anyhow, got some real juices flowing last night. Had 5 or 6 people that were on, which is kind of on the low end, but everybody was active, which is on the high end. So I think one of the guys yesterday, I forget exactly what he called it. I should change my painting sessions to painting and bullshitting or something like that. And I'm like, yeah, we could talk about whatever you want. Doesn't have to be 15 millimeter medieval miniatures. As long as they're not sports. Man, I don't know jack shit about sports. It's spring now, so it's a bit more pleasant. Yeah. Yeah, we had a hell of an English day yesterday. It was rain upon rain upon rain with a side of rain and more rain and another rain and rain after that. And some thunderstorms, but it wasn't too bad. Thunderstorms on a work day is usually a recipe for disaster for me. Because I'm not going out in thunderstorms. Sorry. I didn't come into work to get killed. Other people are scared of the coronavirus, terrorists, all that stuff. I'm scared of freaking lightning. Okay. I think we're done with the strappy straps. Now I'm going to do the same thing that I've started doing with the reins, which is using the same color that I have. So it's kind of a cousin of the color. So we're going to take this color and we're going to darken it. It's the same one we started with. But then we're going to bring it up with white before we quite get to the core color. That's just my attempt at being lazy and not have to go and grab another color just for the reins. I know. See, I do take a shortcut, and this is it. And it may not look that different from the other one, but I know I used a different color. I gotta take a shortcut. Saddle color. I'm gonna go grab, I don't want one that's very red because the shield's red, so I know which one. I've got an orangish looking one, which is, those are always fun to struggle with because they don't cover worth a damn. Orange brown. This is gonna be watery as shit. You missed that last night. Yeah, it happens. Is the banner at the bottom for the Moldavians? It is. The Moldavans. Yes, that's them. I'm gonna start doing that. So when I start working on a different project, the banner for the guys are gonna be at the bottom. So start working on the Byzantines. I'm gonna have one of the first things I'm gonna do is make a little Byzantine banner, put it down there. Gaming on Monday night. I hope so. I hope so. That's the plan. Although, the amount of people watching my gaming videos has diminished, which I guess is understandable. I don't do it for them. I mean, if people watch my stuff, that's cool. You know, but I've just kind of noticed it's been kind of slower than normal. But, you know, lots of people have short attention spans. I don't have material from a lot of different stuff. I mean, I know a lot of people that have their channels, and one day they're working on Sword in the Flame, and then the next time you see them, and then they're working on some samurai rules, and the next time they're doing Western stuff, and I'm like, okay, that might mean you appeal to a lot more people, but it also means that people like me, I'm like, I lose interest because it's like you're all over the place, and you know, I'm not doing this for entertainment value per se because I'm just trying to get something done, and you guys can follow along if maybe I'm working on some subject that, oh, of course, that that you're not interested in, and well, maybe in a little while it'll be something that you are. So you just kind of, you know, I've just kind of taken it like, I'm going to do what I'm going to do. If people watch it, that's cool. Of course. How to make a mess on video 101. Keep it up, and I'll throw all you Chinese bastards in the garbage can. All you Chinese bastards. Well, these brushes, to be honest, didn't say where they came from, which of course is saying they came from China. I actually found some domestic. They don't have to be domestic brushes. You know, they can just be, you know, hey, they can even be made in Australia. Heading to Goulburn on Friday for Mark's Horde competition. I'm taking Feudal English. Ooh, they're on my paint list. That's a cool army. It's the guys I was rooting for in Braveheart. The Scottish were so over the top and stupid that I'm like, no, Brits got to win. English have to win. Sorry, can't call them Brits. Yeah, it's actually on my to-do list. Old Longshanks. Kurosan now make a figure for him in 15 millimeter. I mean, I guess you could use anybody, but they make a figure with, it looks like the dude that plays him in Braveheart. They're on my to-do list. I suspect I'm not going to get to them anytime soon. But you got William Marshall showing up, which I didn't know jack about him. Sorry. I didn't try to avoid people. It just, you know. That's the thing about wargaming. That's historical wargaming. It makes me learn about a period. So that's what I like about it. I know some people probably don't care. but I find that it's a way to participate in my own manner of things that I wouldn't be able to participate in. Thankfully, I don't want to be around in a time period where there was no air conditioning for starters. All right, it didn't happen again, but you have become a nuisance. So I am the world's worst multitasker. I'm sure there's people that are worse. They probably don't admit to it. Just like one guy said the other day, I can't be into everything. I can't be good at everything. There's lots of things I'm not good at, but I don't multitask well, nor do I care to multitask well. Some people think that I don't want to try to do 7 things at once. I want to do one thing, and then certainly on my day off, I want to do one thing and not start something else until that's done. My William Marshall banner will be on display. Yes, I built a banner for a guy that I don't know who he is. No, actually, it's funny because I did find out about him because what book is it in? I think it's in the book that I was reading now. The Dan Jones book on medieval stuff. They did a little vignette on his life. They did him and they did El Cid in the earlier period. So yeah, I went through. I didn't know anything about the guy. They don't advertise him well on this side of the pond. I don't know why, but when will I start Castle Brand? I don't know. I'm not doing it next. I want to get these Polish allies, so I may do it in between things. I don't know. I don't know. To answer your question, I don't know. I should do it next. And I should do the camp for these guys next, which I'm just going to use as a baggage. I'm going to make a little baggage. But man, I don't want to... That means my Byzantines aren't going to get started for like 3 months. And I don't want that. I want to start my Byzantines in about a month. So, and I got to do the poles. I got to do 4 stands of poles. So I may do Castle Brand in between things. We'll see. It's kind of a different subject of all the other stuff, so. See that I had to go and choose who I was doing next, so now I'm dying to work on the Byzantines. So we're not going to start them until the troops are done for this other stuff. But that's what happens. That's what happens. And I really dislike that conventions are back because it really sidetracks my production. As I get these ideas of like, oh, well, when I'm done with this army, maybe I can rush through these guys and I'll be able to paint some other troops and morph a different army and use a different army in the tournament than the one I was planning on using. Instead of being like, they'll get done when they get done. So I'm not falling for my own tricks though. I've fallen for that crap before. So I'm not going to sidetrack all my production just for 3 games in a tournament. It's not like I don't have an army I can use in it. Okay, I don't think we're going to go to full Monty. We can stop there. Add a little bit of white. Just starting to feel like a rehash of my 1/35th scale modeling days, where I'd run into an issue or whatever, and I'm like, oh, let me just buy this other kit instead. I don't want to not finish things anymore. It's extremely unsatisfying, and it reminds me of a work day. Okay, I think that'll suffice for now. We need to brighten up his metal using that other color over there. No, we need to leave that out. Try to pay attention, Tony. Now, this is plenty moist, but this isn't sticking to it. Maybe it just really isn't. Oh, well, I'm not going to worry about it too much. We'll have to throw that piece of paper away soon enough. Who we got on here? How many stamps on the Moldavians? Just one. The general. Everybody else is the same. Jared Heine, welcome back. I wonder how many times you got called Heine. That's annoying to have a name that people mispronounce all the time. I kind of know that feeling a bit. But you know what? People that have said, people whose last name is S-M-I-T-H get pronounced Smith sometimes too. So back at you. Back at you, you Smiths. Loving this army. Loving the army, yeah. Yeah, they fight okay too. Well, against their shitty little armies like them. You're not going to take these guys to an open. Well, that's the point of doing the Polish allies, so you can take them to an open and, have a reasonable chance. And, I got so many damn Polish knights to paint. So many. And I got some Polish knights by manufacturers that aren't out there front and center, so be an opportunity to have some of these armies, some of these figures that don't get much exposure to be exposed. Unfortunately, these Falcon figures, though, they're really not available anymore. The vendor here in the U.S. has gone dormant for several years now. And, and I heard, speaking of going dormant, I heard that John Roberts, the closed up shop, the guy that was doing Roundway, so I'm glad I got in my orders when I did. I know he was having health issues before the whole pandemic fiasco, so I'm sure that didn't help. Even if you want to run the business and stuff, I sure wouldn't want to go to the post office. Going to the post office to me sounds about as much fun as getting frisked by a TSA. And a good part of the deal is that it just takes forever to get through there. Everybody's in a bad mood, and you can't get in and get out quick. At least here in the States, it's like they make every single attempt to service the least amount of people. I know last time I went in there, I know the questions they're going to ask you. Do you want stamps or whatever? I haven't bought stamps at the post office. I don't know if ever. And I don't know the last time I bought stamps. But anyhow, I'm like, hey, this is all I want. It's priority packaging. I don't need any confirmation. Like, easy, right? They should just ring it up, give me the total, so I can get out and pay the next person. And they still go through this litany of questions. And, I'm sure they're made to do stuff like that. But, I'm not a fan of when you're made to do stuff and it's a waste of my time. In the post office, I can only go because of their weird hours. I can only go during my lunch break, which I like to call holy hour, which means I don't want to do a damn thing that's not pure pleasure during that time. It's like the only time I have to myself on a work day. And I'll be damned if I'm going to spend going to the post office on that time. Okay, there's his boots. It was saddening to hear of COVID taking out the wonderful sculptor from Legio Heroica. Was it COVID? I saw that he was his stuff is amazing. I haven't had the pleasure of painting any of his stuff because he kind of showed up on the scene a little too late. And shipping from Italy to the United States is like cost prohibitive. But whoever he has painting his things on his site is really, really nice. I just didn't know that it was COVID related. So, DBA with a twist from a David Lawrence, like me, not sure exactly. Collision course variants being used. Studio WGS, welcome. Only in the U.S. about Heine. Okay. Here I usually get Heinz. No, it's Heine. And if it isn't, correct me. I don't want to say your name wrong. Mr. Dirk, you're welcome. Yeah, at least continuing production. Yeah, unlike Alain Toulaire, who's the Frenchman whose sculpting is gone bye-bye. And I have many of his figures in the Byzantine army coming up, so that'll be at least fun to look at. Yeah. Feudal Spanish army. Yeah, my first army. I spent a lot of money on the figures. A lot of money. I wanted one pack of everything that minifigs could potentially make. And then Old Glory also. What else did I use? I think it was mostly those two. Because at the time, that was pretty much the only game in town. Museum still hadn't come up with their feudal Spanish figures. They came up with them after I finished my army. So that's no good. I gotta make them 3.0 compatible. So, if I redo that army and go that route, I'll use some of the museum figures, which I have picked up yet, and honestly are pretty excellent for that period. But yeah, that's what I went with. That was with the two. I didn't mind the Essex guys, but the Essex guys in that period, their sculpting is weird. They have all these like axes and they're holding them off to one side, and and it just they have weird posing with those figures. The actual guys that would be for that period, they've got those shields with the tassels, and and they're fine. The shields with tassels are fine, but there's something about it just didn't click with me. So I never got any of those guys. Actually, that's not true. I got them and then realized I absolutely hated them and wasn't going to use them in my army. So as I'm painting Essex figures are fine, but I want to pick who the guys are, not just whatever gets thrown in an army pack. And they've grown on me. I like them more than I used to. They look less stumpy to me than they used to before. The problem is they all have the same look, so it's kind of hard to get excited about. All right, I can't wait to build another army with Essex figures. There's like the friggin' same as the last ones you did, you know? Okay, what's color sword did this guy have? This kind of had a medium brown one. We're going to use a lighter color for this guy. As a matter of fact, I'm even fine probably using this one right here. This color right here. I wish there was a chart somewhere where you could look up who the sculptor of all these particular manufacturers are. Because, you know, they do this great work and then we don't know who they are, or I don't know who they are. That's not a 15 millimeter phenomenon. When I was doing 20s, there was many manufacturers I didn't care for at all. I didn't care for Britannia. I didn't care for, the name of the company I couldn't think of the other day that's prolific in doing stuff is, and now I forgot who they are. MRL. Who the hell is MRL? I was like in the middle of my work day and I go, oh, it's so and so, and then it's disappeared again who it is. You know, I don't think about this stuff all day long. If it was, constantly, it's like, it's in the back of my mind. It's there somewhere. I just don't know who it is. It's not combat managers. Combat managers were the ones I loved. Not Platoon 20. Although some of those figures are dogs. Not only are they stumpy, but they got tiny, tiny little feet. Tiny feet. Like size 2 shoes. That's going to drive a hole in my head. All right. Where's my mouse? Where'd my mouse disappear? Oh, it's down here. What the hell? Okay. FAA, figures of armor and artillery. I hate those guys. Well, I hate their faces. Nah, I don't like them at all. They have tubular guns. Will I be doing a banner for the polls? I won't. Oh, I guess I have to put it in the corner. Well, I just rip something off the internet and put it on there. It should be Heine, like I say in German, but it's been anglicized to sound like Hein, as in pine. Huh. Well, which one do you want to be called? Currently at our club, we have people building feudal French, the Cathars, Andalusians, and early Crusaders in Portugal. Plenty of opponents for me. You loved Mike models. The original figures, those are well before my time. The Mike's models Renaissance definitely have a charm. Figures of armor and artillery. That's who it is. I hate those guys. And they're prolific. Some of their guns are like tubular, and I've painted some of their figures. They all have these big ass cheekbones. Now, I'm picking on the sculpting, but it's better than I could do, I think. But they have these guns that are like almost like they put a tube and then they kind of molded some wood around them, and it doesn't even remotely look like the weapon it's supposed to represent. Yeah. For me, it's easier to sell Essex packs for the newbies getting into the hobby. Oh yeah, that's what you got to start with. That you can't just like start going in a bunch of different directions. They're probably just going to buy the army pack and not even paint the figures. So why spend all this money until they're hooked? Then you've got to. Then they do other stuff. But Yeah, I got a friend of mine he swears by them. He refuses. I don't know where he's got this phobia of having these extra figures, but he doesn't want any extra figures when he's done. So he wanted to do Essex Army Packs only, and I'm like, I don't want to paint the wrong figures, you know. And if I'm spending 3 or 4 hours on a figure, I want to paint exactly who the hell I want to paint. You wouldn't have 80 pounds of lead sitting around, or 85. It's probably grown a bit. But the nice thing is I can get into another project and it doesn't cost a fortune. I can just add a couple packs of this and a couple packs of that. So yeah, I didn't start looking at ancients and medieval stuff until 2004. So anything that got made before that and was discontinued, I'm just not even aware of. Jacobite, those old Jacobite figures, I don't know what the hell they look like. I've seen a couple of them in a flea market, but they all predate my entrance into, not in the hobby, but in this scale and period. You know, I just didn't play this stuff because nobody around us played. We were like pretty much World War II gamers only. So if it wasn't that period, we just weren't aware of it. All right, let's get the usual suspects here for the sword, which involves getting the old bronze out. You've ordered a Lydian DBA army, which I can use as is or as mercenaries for my Persians under Cyrus. From Essex? Essex makes a Lydian army pack? I wonder what figures they use. Because the only people that make dedicated Lydians, I mean, I could use other figures, I'm sure, but the only people that make dedicated Lydians were Falcon and, geez, I'm not even squeezing the bottle so much. And look at that big old turd of bronze that comes out. A bronze turd. Is it raining still? Man, it's a good thing I'm a good swimmer. It's absurd. Anybody need any rain? Anybody around the world? I can bottle that up and send it to you guys. Oh wait, that involves me going to the post office. Forget that. Let's get all the rain out this weekend. We don't need it. We don't need it on Monday. I have a job that's miserable when it's raining. So I can. Oh, and thunder too. Oh, sure. Throw that in too. Any calls for hail? Anybody want any hail? Well, hail. Mother Nature on the rag again. I think it needs to rain on some Russians. Oh man. So my involvement with that over there is I'll turn on in the news, I'll type in Ukraine, see if anything new of significance. Nope. The Sitzkrieg in the east. We touched on that yesterday. There's something weird going on over there. It doesn't make any sense. For us war gamers, this doesn't make any sense. The whole thing, this makes no sense whatsoever. How did I transition from World War II to DBA? So there was this, back in the early 90s, back when there was a thing called hobby stores, You know what? Hold that thought. Let me grab a soda because I'm getting parched here, and I'll be right back. And we can delve into that. It's actually not that complicated of a story, but. So in the early '90s, when there were still hobby stores, we used to go to Tampa, which is about an hour and a half, 2 hours away, and go to this hobby shop called Emperor's Outpost. And they had a lot of historical miniatures and stuff like that, which is where I saw the combat miniatures sculpted by Dave Alsop, and I just fell in love with them. And I'm like, I want to play a skirmish game that involves those figures and so forth. I also came across one of the other things I wanted to play is I wanted to play Renaissance Spanish. You know, everybody wants to play. Well, not everybody. I would think people want to play their people, unless you hate where you come from, which I've touched on that before. You want to play your people when they're at the pinnacle of their power, and so I wanted to do Renaissance Spanish. So I came across a set of rules called Armati that was DBA-ish. It was small. It was a couple of units, and you could play the whole period from, like DBA, like 2000 BC all the way into like 1600. I picked up the rules and ordered a couple Essex Army packs. Got the wrong figures. Got dissatisfied with it. Painted up a couple units. Those were the first units I painted that were not World War II things, and some of the first horses I ever painted. I still have them around here somewhere. I didn't paint very many things, and there was a couple different scales you could play that game. You could play like the standard scale game, introductory, which was really, really small, even smaller than DBA, a little bit smaller than DBA, and the big one, which is just a lot of more stands or whatever. But since I never played the game, my motivation to paint them was really, really low. And even at that point, I was already at the stage where I don't do well with trying to get a game off the ground without ever playing it before. I mean, if I play a game and at least I have a frame of reference to say, okay, well, this is how the game goes, and I can kind of follow along, I'm all right with it. But just to play it from scratch, I'm not a good learner that way. I'm not a book learner. I do better, like in school, I always did better with like lectures than actually just sitting there and just reading a book and wondering, what's what. But, so I never played the game. This is about 1996, 1997. Might have bought it even earlier than something like that. The rules came out, I think, in 95, 96. Anyhow, never played the game until 2004, early 2004, back when we had the internet. The internet always is really good for connecting us all. And on one of these Wargaming Florida websites, I saw this post where somebody was going to run an Armati game for people to learn how to play it in Lakeland. And again, about another 2 hours away. And I'm like, well, I got to get in on this, because finally I'll be able to play the game and want to, learn how to play the game with someone that knows how to play it, and then go from there. So I traveled to Lakeland and had a great time, learned the game, enjoyed it, and found out that they ran Armati tournaments. I wasn't necessarily interested in the tournament scene. I was interested in painting my own figures and using my own figures in a game. Because growing up, when we did like naval stuff, I I would bring all my, here in the United States, all naval was all 1/2400 scale. And I would travel to a convention. I'd bring my ships, and naval gaming was fairly popular at that point. And I would show up and I would decide who I wanted to play based on what ships I had. And then I would replace the ones that, everything was supplied by the guy running the game. But I'm like, I don't want to use your ship. I want to use mine. So I'd replace his ships with mine. That's your incentive in buying miniatures. Otherwise, you just don't buy any. You just sit around and play, like a lot of people do. But as a painter, I want to play with my own stuff, so there's an incentive to buy more. Otherwise, why even bother buying any to begin with? But anyways, I digress. So it is in my DNA. It's ingrained to use my own stuff. So that's why I wanted to get into this tournament thing, because I didn't have to build stuff for both sides and I could just play or whatever. So I'm like, yeah, at the show, I said, oh, you mean the show I already go to? Yeah. I was already going to this show in particular. I'd already been going for 3 or 4 years and didn't know they were running Armati. It was apparently really popular, but it was like in a corner and nobody knew about it. So I'm like, yeah, I'll show up at the show. And this was in September 2004. And so I contacted this guy, and real friendly. I think I already knew him before. I just didn't know that he did Armati. I show up at this show to play Armati for the first time in this tournament because he was like, hey, you can use a loner army, what have you. And I'm like, where is everybody? Oh, well, there was a fight with the author of the rules, and everybody's miffed, and nobody's playing Armati anymore. I'm like, really? You're telling me this entire time I've been waiting almost 8 years to play this game. I finally get a chance to play this game, excited to play it, to finally paint some of these figures I've been waiting to do, because I wanted to do something that wasn't World War II or World War I. And, as a way to learn about other different kind of history in detail. I mean, I took history and stuff as electives in college, so it wasn't like I was clueless about history. But, a way to, like I said, participate in this other history. And now the first opportunity I have to do this, it's not available anymore. What the hell happened? Oh, all these people, gamers are nomadic. They'll be like, they'll be into this period, and then the next thing you know, I sold all my stuff and I got into something else. Well, that's a personal problem. The people they're always trying to search for the golden goose instead of finding something and then just being happy with it. But anyhow, so there was no Armati to be had. So I'm like, well, shit. And then I look around, and here's Marty Schmidt setting this game up that looks Armati-like. What's this? Well, it's DBA. And I played in the demo, played in the tournament, and the rest is history. But I showed up to play Armati. And there's things about Armati that I like better than DBA. There's not many things that I prefer. But, Armati doesn't have that stupid thing where you have to line up perfectly. So that's, I think, better. But anyways, the rest is history. So I actually didn't show up to get DBA. Getting to DBA, and, at that point, I was playing a lot of advanced squad leader and stuff like that. Really complicated rules, and I couldn't get through the DBA language. I don't know that I still can. It's not the language necessarily. It's all the 20 thoughts jumbled in one sentence. Like, dude, use bullet points. Not here on the east coast of Australia. We've had enough of it. Probably the water, yeah. It's pretty rough up near you. Northern tablelands, no direct effect other than the road to Coughs being blocked by a landslip. Friends in Brisbane, woke up to find they had a wonderful apartment. Armati. I still make my armies for Armati. Yeah, I only played it one time. Well, I think we played a couple of games that day, and I have the rules. I have the advanced one too. And then I had the one when they reprinted it, and nobody played that. But it's funny to see the game, the armies that are power armies in Armati and are not power armies in DBA. The Mongols are a power army in Armati. And so the thing I dislike about Armati probably the most is the whole hidden setup. Where you can't see the other people lined up. And then if you deploy guys in the wrong place, there's a chance they may not get into combat. So it's not really as user friendly as it. I don't mind that when you start on one end, you have to do all your combats in that order. I don't mind that stuff. But yeah, the first thing that struck me really strange with DBA was, what do you mean only have to knock out 4 of the elements and the battle's over? It just wasn't enough kills. But, I've just kind of gotten accustomed to that's just how it is, I've even told Mitch, we're going to tinker one time and play DBA, and you have to get half your force killed and see how different of a game that is. I have a feeling it's not going to improve the game a whole lot, but I'd like to see it one time just to see how that plays out. But they do a few things I think better. The fact that skirmishers can shoot at a distance is more appropriate. It's easier to explain to new people. People have a hard time understanding some new things. I know I was a new person, and anytime you have to use the phrase, well, it doesn't make any sense to me either, but them's the rules, is a rule that, in my opinion, should be ripe for changing. I'm talking 15, 20 years down the road. I'm not changing that next day. Time for lights out. That's right. You don't want the prime minister to knock on your door saying, hey, what are you doing on? Catch you later. Yep, I should be on. Maybe I'll be on when you wake up. Man, it is just pouring out there. Well, hopefully we don't have any flooding issues. Not here. We're pretty much flood free, but on other roads. Land of extremes. It can rain all day long for all I care. Just get it all out of your system before Monday. I don't want none of this shit on Monday. Pierre! Bonjour! Ah, the representatives from the Netherlands and France are here. Welcome, folks. Yeah, this is such a niche thing that you need to have representatives from all over the world, because like in my town, for instance, there's like no historical war gamers, and we got 150,000 people. Well, other than our little group. I've given up trying to recruit other people. Like, there's just a lot of people that just aren't interested in this. Women aren't interested in this stuff, and most men want to see other men play with balls. Hey, what am I going to do? We ran one game in a pub, in the middle of a pub, and I'm like, certainly there's got to be somebody that's going to walk up to the game and go, man, that's cool, what is that? Even if they're not interested in playing, at least nobody. I'm like, there's no hope for humanity. So, the best thing I can do is get people interested in this, keep people interested in this, is just make my videos, and some of you guys will be entertained by it. But locally, it's pretty much a lost cause. I'm okay with it. I don't have it bring me down. I can't take this stuff with me to the next world, so. I'm a quick learner. I did, many years ago, somebody's like, you need to do a how to play DBA thing at a convention. I'm like, all right, I'll run it. First time I run it, only one person showed up. It was a guy and his son. His son was like 11 years old or something like that. He didn't want to be there, dropped his son off for babysitting. And the next thing you know, I get rewarded by having to babysit somebody for 3 hours who didn't want to be there. Nope, learned that lesson. Won't do it again. Because at our show, we don't get any kind of a discount or anything for running games. It's not like, oh, well, you get to get in free or anything. Not that that's a big pull, but it's like, if I'm doing a game, I'm not getting to play, and why am I babysitting somebody else's kid? The kid doesn't want to be there. Like, you're the fucking dad. I don't let somebody babysit my daughter, I'm gonna make a show, and that's what I'm gonna call it. You're the fucking dad is what it's gonna be called. Why is why is the government taking care of your kid? You're the fucking dad. Oh man. Assume the art de la guerre is more common than DBA over there. Ah, the French rules, as they like to call them. No, I'm quite new to wargaming. Pretty much DBA and Black Sea's the only games I'm familiar with. I'm I don't like talking shit about other rules. But I was gonna buy a set of the rules art de la guerre just to see what it was about. And somebody gave me a copy. They weren't available or something like that. And somebody gave me a copy, which they shouldn't have done. But, which I probably would have turned around and bought the, because I've bought the DBA rules several times. But I'm glad I didn't buy them because after reading them, it was uneasy. I don't like when somebody takes somebody else's stuff and then sells it and doesn't give any credit to the person that they took it from. I mean, yes, there's different levels of morality, and if you're okay with it, hey, that's the rules you choose to live by. But, I have no problem 20 years from now making some kind of rule. I've got to be retired. I got to get this 8, 9, 10 hours a day of stuff I don't want to do out of my system first. I don't have a problem 20 years from now taking little bits from different things, because I think every rule set has something worthwhile, and making my own thing that will be free, that you credit other people where you did it. I don't care. Well, you can't do that because you get sued. Nobody's going to sue you if you do it the right way, and you got to give people credit. You can't just have this chip on your shoulder where, oh, I came up with all this stuff on my own. I don't know. I don't have any credit. Come on, man. You're a dishonorable fuck if you do shit like that. And there's a couple of rule sets that have done stuff like that, and I don't play them because it doesn't sit well with me. At least give the people credit, So, I've mentioned it before. 20 years from now, if I do that, I'll use DBA 3.0 Army List. And then you have to buy DBA 3.0, so Phil or his estate still gets the revenue. I don't get any because I'm not in it for the money. I'm just in it to make a better game. And no harm, no foul, right? That's the way you do it. It's not like you guys are going to get rich off somebody else's idea. So, I'm quite only playing DBA in 20mm for the web and for DBM before nothing. Yeah, so you can't take Phil's Army List that a lot of the stuff, honestly, he pulled out of his ass, and then make your own Army List, and then not even mention Phil's name or DBA or nothing, and then charge for him. It's not right. It's just not right. I don't think they should be sued because I think, suing people only makes lawyers rich. And, God help you. Those guys don't need any more. Those guys don't need any more power over us. But that's just the wrong way, to go about things. That's just the wrong way to go about things. So, but you can choose to do things that way. I'm not going to do them that way. You give credit where credit's due. So like Art de la Guerre, for instance, has a thing where they have, DBMM has this thing called Brilliant Generals, where certain generals in certain armies can get extra bonuses. I think you got to pay for them and stuff like that. It's not like they come free. And the same exact list, the same exact people, maybe not everybody, but I swear I went through like 25 of them. They're the same exact people in both, or in Art de la Guerre. I'm like, why would you pick those same exact people if you're not copying somebody's work that they did? It just doesn't sit well with me. That's all. And it still doesn't fix my biggest gripe with DBA, which is the whole having to conform, being forced to conform when you line up. So it doesn't fix that. There's some cool things in it. I've watched a couple of videos how to play the game. And there's some cool things about it. Again, if your game group plays that, you kind of have to play that or, create everything from scratch. But I'm not jumping through a flaming hoop to play that. It speaks volumes when you charge for somebody else's stuff. There's stuff on your on rules and stuff. This is a copyrighted material. You can't. I will make an exception to it. I've done this. Well, I actually haven't used it in a long time. But when I first bought my DBA set of rules, I went and made a photocopy of them. Why? Was I going to give it to somebody? No. I'm going to teach people to play the game, and it's not right that my set of rules is going to go to shit in using it while teaching other people to play the game and sell more product for you. Okay? I'm not giving the rules to anybody. I've already bought the rules, And if that's illegal, well, then lock my ass up in jail. But I'm not giving the rules to somebody else, and I'm encouraging people to buy the rules and selling more product for you. And you're not paying me, and I don't want people to pay me. It's the right thing to do. But anyhow, that's the copyright violation thing that I don't have a problem with. Although there may be a disclaimer for your own personal use, and that's what it is. I don't want to destroy. I'm teaching other people how to play the game and flipping pages forwards and backwards, and hell, now we're even making videos. So, but I haven't used those things. Because what happens is you photocopy it and I put it in plastic, and it just gets so damn thick. That book weighs so much, and after I got one tear in my rules, I'm like, fuck it. It's just gonna go to shit. So. Let there be rain. This guy's almost done. And if you guys think different than me, then do what you feel like. You're the one that's got to sleep at night. I have no problem going to sleep at night knowing that I made the right decisions that were for me. So, socks. I think this guy needs socks because otherwise it's just a black drab horse. But then this one also has socks. Maybe we'll only do. Let's give him socks. Let's give him socks. Tell you what, I'd rather have this rain than all that pollen that we had a couple of weeks ago. Everything was covered in yellow. As soon as we got the first little warm spurt, all the trees went, and everything turned yellow. It was like yellow cocaine everywhere. Double the 15 dimensions. I always think it'd be cool if there was a figure variety to play with 15 millimeter side stands but use sixes. But I just don't find that there's enough variety in the 6 millimeter figures. And I don't buy into the, well, they're just little maggots and you can't see the detail on them anyways. I'm like, well, I can, you know. I think that would be kind of cool. You know, if I did do 28s, which I'm not going to do anytime soon, I've expressed my reasons multiple times. I just don't have the time to spend 8 hours on a figure. And that would be me. I can't just be like, well, I'm just dip them. No, I'm not going to have figures that have even more detail and then treat them with less respect. You know, no, I know me. I would take for frickin' ever. And but if I did do 28s, I would base them in a way that I could pop them and play an individually based game as well. So in other words, they'd be on individual round stands or square stands or whatever, and they would fit into a big stand when they went and played the big game. And then I could take them out of them or whatever. And that way I could, at least even though I'm increasing my time use, I'm playing in, I'm getting a couple different uses out of the stand. But that's just me brainstorming, thinking, you know, if somebody put a gun to my head and said I had to paint 28s, and I don't dislike 28s from the standpoint of I don't like how the figures look. That used to be the case many years ago, but there's lots of really excellent looking 28 millimeter stuff now. I just don't have the time and to spend on building an army. All right. So mine's not a space thing. It's not a cost thing. Not that I'm dying to spend more money on them, but I actually had a guy a couple years ago that said, hey, I'll send you some figures for free. They were 28s. And you can paint them and just send me pictures. I would have been perfectly happy doing that, but I'm just not gonna. I'm like, dude, don't even send them to me. I don't want you to waste. I know how tight things are, and then don't send the figures to me. I'm not gonna get around to painting them, and I gave them the same reasons I just gave you guys right now. I'm gonna be realistic with you, and I'm not gonna get them done. I don't want the pressure, either. Man, it is just pouring. Man, I hope we don't lose power. Well, if we lose power and I get cut off, you know what happened. We have all the power lines in our neighborhood are underground, but the feeders are not. And they go in between trees, and they don't like to cut them back. And so I could totally see that happening. We're going to have a fun freaking day if the power goes out, though. I can tell you that much. I mean, that's kind of windy. Man, Mother Nature's being a real bitch today. You have so many problems with my Victrix miniatures to put them on the bases. You started out, Mr. Jeffrey started off with 6mm irregular miniatures with DBA 1.0 Romans versus Seleucid. 15mm easier to paint. Yeah, I could see that. I'm glad I never played DBA 1.0. You know why? Something else I'd have to unlearn.